Welcome back to Titan University's RMS 3.0 for the contractor. Congratulations on completing and passing Chapter 6. In Chapter 7, we'll go over the QC tab, which includes adding a contract into RMS, adding staff to a contract, adding new user roles, QC requirements, exposure hours, and equipment checks. Quality construction is the combined responsibility of the contractor and the government's quality assurance staff. Contract documents establish the quality that's required by the contract. Your mutual goal must be a quality product conforming to the contract requirements, and a professional working relationship must be established to achieve this goal. The Quality Control Specification requires a Contractor Quality Control Plan be tailored to the contract. The specification also describes how to implement quality control on the project. The QC module in RMS 3.0 is your vehicle to document quality control activities. Maintaining the data in this module will help ensure the project stays in compliance with the QC specs. Within the QC module are several submodules, including QC Summary, QC Daily Reports, Features of Work, 3-phase inspections, hazard analysis, QC requirements, equipment checks, dredging equipment, and exposure hours. Click the QC Summary tab. The QC Summary screen provides a quick view of the status on major topics covered in the QC Daily Report. Click on any of the gray boxes in the top half of the screen, and a list of the items represented by the number in the gray box will be displayed in the section below. Click the back button to go to the Contract menu, and we'll look at the QC Daily Reports. A daily report is required for every day of the contract. When we say every day, we even mean weekends, holidays, and non-work days. This date will be determined by the district and will be either the notice to proceed or when construction on site begins. These daily reports continue until the contract completion date or substantial completion date, whichever occurs later. Whenever on-site work continues after the contract completion date or substantial completion date, daily reports must be prepared and submitted for each day work on-site occurs. If the contract is for a dredging project, daily dredging reports may also be required for each dredge on the contract. We will talk about dredging later. Click the QC Daily Reports tab. Each row you see on the grid represents a single day in the life of the contract from the notice to proceed to the construction completion date. It's important to understand, even if there is no work being performed, maybe due to weather, as an example, a daily report still needs to be submitted to the government for that day or days. For contracts that don't include dredging, daily reports are grouped into 3 subsets and can be seen by clicking on the corresponding blue tiles. The button All Daily QC Reports will display all daily reports submitted to date. The button Completed QC Reports, which you're viewing now, displays completed daily reports sent to the government for review. And the button Not Completed QC Reports shows daily reports that are either still being worked on or not yet sent to the government for review. Click Add on the local toolbar to see how to create a new daily report. Here, you'll select the date the QC Daily Report is being submitted for and not necessarily today's date. The daily report consists of 9 sections documenting all the day's on-site activity. A complete and detailed record will go a long way in supporting your pay requests, performance evaluation, and any disputes or claims that may arise during the contract. If you take the time to properly and thoroughly document, your efforts will not be wasted. Click on a blue tile to enter the data related to the tile label. As information is entered, a visual of the report will build in the gray section of the screen. You can view the version that will print at any time by selecting the QC Daily Report widget. Weather is a required entry. You will not be able to complete the report without selecting from the drop-down list. This data is important in documenting weather conditions that affect your ability to work and whether you may be due a time extension due to unusually severe weather. The government will also enter their weather assessment for the day on the QA report. The reported weather in both reports must be the same. In case of disagreement, the government will make the final determination. Be sure to document conditions well. Complete the temperature, rain and wind fields with the weather conditions of the day. In the daily QC report, the term rain includes all types of precipitation, including snow. QC narratives are the most important input part of the daily report. This is where you describe what happened at the worksite. Remember that it is your responsibility to tell your story. Do not rely on the government to record the day's events. What you write here will go a long way in supporting your position in case of disputes with the government. Select Add to either manually add QC narrative or copy narratives from previous report. For this example, we will manually add a QC narrative. The list of narrative types is customized by each USACE district and may vary between military, civil, and dredging projects. The report type and the narratives types will be determined by the government. Select a title from the narrative type lookup list to provide a detailed account, then select OK. You are encouraged to include every narrative from the list in the QC daily report, even if the content of the narrative is none or NA. This will let the government know that consideration was given to every topic when the report was written. Looking at the fields needed to build the QC narratives, we see Inspected On. This will be the date for which the report is being created, will automatically populate. However, an alternate date can be selected by clicking the Calendar widget. This will move the narrative to the alternate selected date. RMS will allow selection of an alternative date in the past. However, if the report for that date has already been sent to the government will not see these changes. If you need to make changes to an earlier report, request your USACE representative return the report for corrections. Make the changes, then resubmit. The safety-related field is read-only and is set by the government. If the box is checked, always include observations related to safety in the comments. The comments field is where you'll describe in as much detail as possible information related to the narrative title. Select the applicable shift from the drop-down list on the Shift field. And now select the Back button to exit and save. You'll repeat these steps for all narratives to be included in the report. Back to adding a QC narrative. This time, we'll select Copy Narratives from previous report. The Narrative Lookup table will display a list of all narratives written to date. Place a check mark on all narratives to be copied into the current day's report, then click on OK. You can copy as many narratives as you want to. You can even copy narratives from several days with the same title. The copied narratives will match the original exactly, except for the date, which will match the date of the report being written. The copied narratives can be edited as needed to tailor it to the specifics of the day. If you now have more than one narrative with the same title, consider cutting and pasting the text from the multiple titles into one and deleting the now empty narratives, leaving just one instance of each narrative title. This will leave a cleaner report. Narratives may be added to the daily report by more than one person. When this occurs, the name of the person who is logged in at the time the narrative is added to the report will be appended to the narrative. The QC/QA deficiencies section is used to track deficiencies identified by you and the government. A deficiency may be any item that has not been performed or completed in accordance with the contract and requires further action in order for it to be considered acceptable. Deficiencies that are discovered by you are added as QC deficiencies and will be numbered automatically. For QC deficiencies, the number will start with QC. Government-identified deficiencies will start with QA. Previously identified deficiencies, both QC and QA, will also be shown in the table according to the filter selected. The list of QC/QA deficiencies corresponding to any of the categories can be seen by simply clicking anywhere in the corresponding blue tile. A filtered list of the categories selected will then be seen. All deficiencies displays a comprehensive list for all deficiencies. Issued. Not corrected shows deficiencies that have been identified and not yet corrected. Corrected. Not verified displays deficiencies that you have reported corrected and the government has not yet confirmed the correction is complete and satisfactory. Finally, the verified tile shows deficiencies that you have corrected and the corrections the government has determined acceptable. Check the boxes to the right to report deficiencies that have been corrected. And now we'll look at adding a new deficiency. Click the Add button now to create a new deficiency item. The location field is where you'll identify where the deficiency occurred. You can manually enter a location or click on Select Location from Lookup to choose from a list of locations that have been associated with this project elsewhere in RMS. This field is limited to 12 characters. Please work with the QA representative and field staff to decide upon an acceptable format for locations entered manually. Avoid different variations for the same location. For instance, be consistent when using abbreviations. If the deficiency involves a safety issue, check the Safety Violation box. The description of deficiency item field will need to be written as a narrative. Describe in as much detail as possible information describing the deficiency. Click on the blue lookup box to display a list of all the pay activities in the activity schedule. Select the activity that is the most closely affected by the deficiency. Wherever you have an opportunity to associate an activity with an item, you should always enter this information. Associating items with an activity enables RMS to assist you in supporting payment requests by documenting the status of actions that affect activity completion. A complete accounting of your quality control efforts is essential to ensuring you are paid what you are due, when it is due. Once you've made your selection, click OK. Select the Back button to exit and save. Repeat for all deficiencies to be included in the report. A little later, we'll go over all QC requirements, but for now, we will focus on the QC Requirements tab for the QC Daily Report. As a QC requirement is completed, report the completion in the QC Daily Report on the date of completion. Requirements not previously added in the QC Requirements section can also be added in the QC Daily Report. Completion of a QC requirement is subject to verification, concurrence, by the government. A requirement that is reported completed but does not meet contract requirements will be returned, reissued, and must be corrected to the government's satisfaction. The list of QC requirements corresponding to any of the categories can be seen by simply clicking anywhere in the corresponding blue tile at the top of the screen. A filtered list of the categories selected will then be displayed. Place a check mark in the completed column of all requirements completed on the report date. When reporting that a QC test has been completed, also select the applicable status note from the drop-down list. Update the status as needed until results are received and the test has passed. Enter test results and any applicable notes or observations in the description field. Remember that the government will review your reported status and, if in disagreement, will return it for correction. Click on Add to create a new QC requirement. Complete all the fields in the screen where you'll enter your new QC requirement. The Prep Initial Inspection selection is used to report when one of these inspections is conducted. The list found in Features of Work corresponding to any of the categories can be seen by simply clicking anywhere in the corresponding blue tile. Select the feature of work for which the preparatory or initial inspection was held by double-clicking on the feature or selecting Edit. Now, select the report date and enter it into the section named Held. RMS will not prevent you from selecting a date other than the date for which the daily report is being prepared. However, the information will only appear on the daily report matching the date chosen. Click the Back button when complete. The Activities Started, Finished selection must be used to report actual start and finish dates of activities. These dates are not imported using the SDEF file. The activities are grouped into several categories, as you can see from the blue tiles at the top of the screen. The tile named Activity Started or Finished Today is for activities that have an actual start and/or actual finish date that is the same as the daily report date. Activities in Progress is for activities that have an actual start date but no actual finish date. Activities Not Started is for activities that do not have an actual start date. And Activities Not Finished is for activities that do not have both actual start and actual finish dates. The list of activities corresponding to any category can be seen by clicking the corresponding blue tile. A filtered list for the selected category will appear in the table below. Select the activity, then the date on the calendar pop-up. You can manually type a date or click the button to the right of the field to open a calendar from which you can select the applicable date. If you select a date other than the date of the report you are preparing, the activity will be reported on the corresponding daily report date. If that daily report has already been completed and submitted, the report that the government has will not reflect this information. To update the report, ask your USACE representative to return it to you for corrections. Make the correction, sign, and resend. Select Contractors on Site to document the first and last days subcontractors are working at the job site. These dates are used to track insurance and payroll requirements. If a subcontractor is on site intermittently, its last day is the day that would be the date of completion. The list of subcontractors corresponding to any of the categories can be seen by clicking the corresponding blue tile at the top. A filtered list will then appear in the table below. Select the subcontractor and double-click in the date field you wish to enter. If you select a date other than the date of the report you are preparing, the subcontractor's presence will be reported on the corresponding daily report. If that daily report has already been completed and submitted, the report that the government has will not reflect this information. To update the report, ask your USACE representative to return it to you for corrections. Make the correction, sign, and resend. Use this selection to report actual labor and equipment hours on the job site. A monthly tally of the labor hours reported is used to generate the required monthly exposure hour reporting. A running total of equipment hours is maintained in the Equipment Check module to ensure timely equipment inspections are conducted for continued safe usage of equipment. Select Labor Hours, which will open the data screen for logging labor hours. Click Add to identify the subcontractors and the types of workers on the job site. Select either Manually Add or Copy from previous day. We'll select Manually Add. Click the blue bar in the Contractor field to select a subcontractor from the Subcontractor Lookup list. Do the same with Labor Classification to choose the type of worker. Both entries must be selected from the applicable list. If the subcontractor is not on the subcontractor list, go to the Administration tab and enter the subcontractor in the Subcontractor section. If the appropriate labor classification is not on the labor classification list, notify your USACE representative and provide the information to add to the labor classification library. Click OK. Continue to add subcontractors until all on-site labor have been identified. It is very important that all on-site labor is accurately logged. This data can be copied directly into the monthly Department of Labor exposure report. If we want to copy labor hours from a previous day's report, we can do so only when there have been no other labor hours previously entered. Continuing to copy from the previous day, a calendar will display from which you can select any date from which to copy labor hours, then click on OK. The copied labor hours will match the original exactly and can be edited as needed. Moving on to equipment hours, we'll click Add to identify the equipment and hours of operation. Select either Manually Add or Copy from previous day. We'll select Manually Add. The list of equipment entered, the QC tab, when you first set up equipment in RMS will display in a lookup table when you select the blue equipment field. Select the equipment used, then click on OK. Acknowledge this selection by clicking OK once again, once prompted to do so. Equipment will still be included in the Equipment Hours table for the daily report you are preparing. You can then double-click on the equipment to update this date, either remove it, or enter a new last day on site date. Continue to add until all equipment on the job site for the day have been identified. Single-click on the data field to enter both idle hours and operating hours for all equipment on the list. Moving along to the Accident Reporting tile, it's important to note that all mishaps are reportable whether they occur on or off the job site. As long as there was injury or damage to someone or something during performance of work related to the contract, it must be reported on the QC daily report. The district in which you are working may also have additional reporting requirements. Be sure to discuss this with your USACE representative during the Safety Coordination meeting and include the requirements in your mishap prevention plan. Additional reporting requirements can be found in the EM 385-1-1 Safety and Health Requirements Manual. While all mishaps are reportable, not all mishaps are recordable. When a recordable mishap occurs, you should notify your USACE representative immediately. Do not wait to complete and submit any forms. A recordable mishap would be any mishap that resulted in any government employee or contractor lost time injury, illness, or fatality, caused damage in excess of $1,000 to contractor property, including motor vehicles, involved a motor vehicle, regardless of injury, illness, or fatality occurred, involved a contractor diving activity. All mishaps meeting any one of the following criteria must also be reported on ENG Form 3394, which may be obtained from your USACE representative. Lost time mishaps are accidents in which the injury sustained by the employee resulted in a loss of productive work time. Any mishap is categorized as lost time only when the injured worker is unable to perform regular job duties, takes time off for recovery, or is assigned modified work duties while recovering. Lost time injuries encompass both temporary injuries that keep the employee away from work for a day, to permanent disabilities and conditions that prevent him or her from ever returning to the job or performing the same work tasks. The list of mishaps corresponding to any of the categories can be seen by clicking anywhere in the corresponding blue tile. A filtered list of the categories selected will be displayed in the table below it. Click Add to include a report of any mishap occurring on the report date. Select Personal Injury if a person was injured. Select Non-Personal Injury if there was property damage only and no person was injured. The date for which the report is being created will automatically populate and cannot be changed. In the description field, describe the mishap in as much detail as possible. Include contractor involved, location, time of the mishap, activity in progress, actions taken, any environmental factors. Click the blue lookup table next to Contractor, Subcontractor to identify the contractor for which the injured employee works. Input the age of the injured employee in the Age field and the date he or she started work on the contract in the Date Started Work field. This will bring up a calendar. Select the injured employee's gender in the Gender field. Click the blue lookup table next to Labor Classification to identify the appropriate occupation of the injured employee. In the Location field, you'll identify where the mishap took place. This field is limited to 50 characters. Next, identify the status of the injured employee as a result of the mishap. Select from one of the options in the Injury Results section. What type of injury was it? Identify the type of injury sustained by the injured employee. Select from one of the options in the Injury Type section. Is the accident recordable? Click this box if the mishap meets any one of 4 criteria listed on the screen in the red font. Use the Document Packages feature to attach photos of the mishap site, copies of the completed mishap report forms, and any other supporting documents. The purpose of this module is to generate an agenda for the required series of meetings. Features of work, also known as definable features of work, DFOW, may be defined as a task that is separate and distinct from other tasks, has separate control requirements, is identified by different trades or disciplines, or it is work by the same trade in a different environment. Although each section of the specifications can generally be considered as a definable feature of work, there are frequently more than one definable feature under a particular section. This list is agreed upon during the Quality Control Coordination meeting. All activities in your schedule, NAS, or bar chart must be assigned to one and only one feature of work, while a feature of work may be linked to many activities. Features of work in the Quality Control Plan and in RMS 3 must match those in the Scheduling program. Click on the Features of Work tab now. Features of work are added to RMS in 2 ways. They may be manually added by clicking on Add or automatically through the SDEF file import. One of the data fields associated with an activity in the scheduling program is Feature of Work. RMS will extract the information input in this field from the SDEF file during import and automatically populate the feature of work table. An entry will be created for all features of work that are not already included in RMS 3. Any feature of work in the SDEF file that does not exactly match an existing feature in the table, including capitalization, spacing, and spelling, will generate a new entry. Therefore, when using SDEF, consider entering features only through the SDEF file to prevent duplicate appearing features from occurring. If duplicates occur, to avoid confusion, remove the duplicates. Be careful to retain the version that is contained in the SDEF file, otherwise duplicates will continue to pop up every time an SDEF file is imported. Let's click Add Now to manually add a feature of work. When an SDEF file is not being used, it is necessary to manually enter the features of work. Click on the Feature field, type in the feature title, then click on OK. Alternatively, you can also select a feature from the Features of Work library by clicking on the Select Feature button. The library consists of a large number of common features found on many Corps of Engineers construction projects. Features selected from the library may also be edited to tailor the feature to the specific use in your contract. Go ahead and select the feature of work, and then press OK. You will then need to enter the number of days in which you plan to conduct the initial control meeting after the preparatory control meeting. Then, click on the Back tile. An advantage to selecting feature titles from the library is that it provides ready access to the inspection checks library, which we'll cover next. Three-phase inspections are the cornerstone of the Corps of Engineers quality control and quality assurance programs. The three phases are preparatory, initial, and follow-up. Preparatory phase occurs prior to beginning work on a definable feature of work. In this phase, all required plans, documents, and materials are approved and accepted. Initial phase is performed at the beginning of a definable feature of work, generally after a representative sample of the work is completed. And the follow-up phase occurs daily thereafter until all work associated with a feature is completed, at which time the final follow-up should be conducted to close out the feature. Let's select the Three-Phase Inspections tile and go over the requirements. RMS 3 includes a library of inspection checks that are numbered. The numbers generally follow the Construction Specification Institute Master Format 1995 edition numbering system. This library represents a collection of issues that could affect quality if not properly addressed. You are encouraged to take advantage of the contents of this library when developing your worksheet for each phase of work. When first opened, a table containing a list of all the contract's features of work will be displayed. To view or add checks to a feature, select the feature by double-clicking on the feature title. The list of checks corresponding to any of the categories can be seen by simply clicking anywhere in the corresponding blue tile. A filtered list of the categories selected will be displayed in the table. Select Add, then select from the drop-down. To manually add an inspection check, select the Check Type box. From the drop-down box, select the type of inspection check you are adding. Describe the check in the box provided, then select OK, and click the Back button. To copy checks from three-phase inspections from another contract, click the Add button and copy checks from three-phase inspections from another contract. Now, you'll first select the contract you want to copy from, and then select the feature to copy the checks. Once complete, all the copied checks will be in your contract and are exactly the same as those in the copied contract. You can still delete and/or edit any of the copied checks. You do not need to keep all of them. You can also change the details of the checks to conform to the specifics of your contract. To change the details of a check, select the check and double-click on it, or select Edit. When done editing, click on the Back button. Click Add and make a selection from the drop-down menu. Both of the highlighted sections open a box containing a list of the CSI divisions on the left and the checks associated with the selected division on the right. First, click on a division to expand it, and see the subdivisions within it. Second, click on the subdivision to see a filtered list of checks associated with a selected subdivision. And third, add a check mark to the desired checks for your contract. Finally, click OK, and the selected checks are now copied to your contract. All the copied checks are now on your contract and are exactly the same as those in the library. You can still delete and/or edit any of the copied checks. You do not need to keep all of them. You can also change the details of the checks to conform to the specifics of your contract. To change the details of a check, select the check and double-click on it, or select Edit. When done editing, click on the Back button. To remove unwanted checks, click on Delete. You can remove checks individually, more than one at a time, or all in one step. The following is true for all inspections. The government QA will attend all 3 phase meetings. This ensures the contractor's plan meets or exceeds quality construction for the definable feature of work. The contractor has 5 options to add inspection checks and repetitive deficiencies to the preparatory and initial inspection meetings, as well as follow-up inspections. And the contractor will add the dates and times for each definable feature of work, preparatory, and initial meeting in the feature schedule. This feature schedule is also where the QA obtains the dates and times for the meetings. The hazard analysis, also known as an activity hazard analysis, or AHA, defines the work sequence, anticipated hazards, conditions, equipment, materials, personnel, and the control measures to be implemented to eliminate or reduce each hazard to an acceptable level of risk, and assigns a risk assessment code for each step. The US ACE uses the AHA as part of a total risk management process. As required by EM 385-1-1, Safety and Health Requirements Manual, detailed project-specific hazards and controls must be provided in AHAs for each definable feature of work, DFOW. No work can begin on a DFOW until the initial AHA has been accepted by a responsible government safety representative addressing project-specific hazards and discussed with all engaged in the activity, including you, the contractor, your subcontractor or subcontractors performing the particular DFOW, and government on-site representatives at preparatory and initial control phase meetings. You must identify each major phase of work that will be performed on this contract. Within each major phase, all activities, tasks, or DFOWs shall be identified that will require an AHA. Before beginning each work activity, task, or DFOW, you must prepare the initial AHA and assign a risk assessment code, RAC, to each step that corresponds to the risk that remains after controls have been applied. From the Contract menu, click on the QC tab, and then click the blue Hazard Analysis tab. Now click the Add button to add a new Activity Hazard Analysis. Title the AHA with the same name as the feature of work to which it applies. Since an AHA is required for every feature of work, giving them the same title will ensure they are correctly matched up. Enter a title for the AHA, then click on OK. On this screen, you'll enter a brief description of the AHA. Then click the blue Lookup field next to Feature of Work and select the appropriate feature of work to which the AHA applies. Next to Document Packages, select Add to attach the completed AHA and other supporting documents to a document package. Once all documents have been signed and added to the package, click Submit for review. The document package status will change to In Review. Click on the Back button. There may be times when the government finds reason to return an AHA. When this happens, the hazard analysis status will indicate Returned for corrections. Before continuing, meet with your USACE representative to find out what corrections need to be made to the report. To make the requested changes, select Edit. To revise the existing document and document package, click on Edit. Click Edit Document to make revisions, then save it to the RMS3 database when prompted. You can also add additional attachments by selecting Add. Do not forget to sign all documents that require signatures. When you're done making revisions, click Submit for review, then the Back button. Click Yes if you want to store the document you just edited. Click No if you do not. Complete the resubmittal process by clicking Submit for Government Review. This action sends the completed document package to the government. QC requirements is the collective term given to contract requirements for QC tests, user schools, installed property, and transfer property. You are responsible for developing complete lists of all these requirements and inputting these into RMS3. The requirements are usually found in the specifications and will require a careful reading of the specifications to identify the complete list of QC requirements. QC tests are numbered automatically in RMS and will start with the letters CT. The need for specific QC tests is identified in the specifications. Testing requirements can usually be found in Part 3, Execution of a Specification. It is your responsibility to develop a complete list of all QC tests and enter it in RMS 3, those required by the contract, as well as those you determine are needed to ensure a quality product. User schools are numbered automatically in RMS and will start with the letters US. User schools are the training or instruction you must provide the customer on equipment or systems provided and installed as part of the contract. As each session of the training or instruction is completed, report it on the QC Daily Report. A USACE representative should ensure that it was accomplished appropriately, and if not, have it repeated to comply with the contract documents. The customer, user, will often neglect attending the training and then complain that none was offered. Your records can protect your staff from that situation. Installed property is automatically numbered and will start with the letters IP. Installed property is equipment that is permanently installed or attached to a facility. Typically, this equipment has serial numbers, requires maintenance, and are discrete entities. As installed property arrives at the job site, compare it to approved shop drawings for conformance to the contract and record the manufacturer, serial number, and other maintenance-related information. Transfer property is sequentially numbered and begins with the letters TP. Transfer property is property that changes hands during the construction process. Examples include government-furnished property, GFP, that you install or use up during performance of the contract. It also includes spare parts and supplies that are furnished by you and turned over to the government as part of the contract requirements. It could also include equipment or materials that were deleted by contract modification and the government decided to retain possession rather than take a monetary credit. The government should be preparing a DD Form 1149 transfer document to include with other closeout documents. Let's go back to the Contract menu and click on the QC Requirements tile. The list of QC requirements corresponding to any of the types can be seen by clicking the corresponding blue tile. A filtered list of the type selected will be displayed in the table below. Click Add to create a new QC requirement. Select the type of requirement to add from the drop-down list. In this example, we've selected Add QC Test, and if you look towards the bottom of the screen, the details of the requirements have appeared. On this screen, we'll add the QC test requirements. RMS automatically assigns the QC test number. Clicking on the blue lookup box in this section field allows you to select the specification section in which the QC test requirement is described. The specification section lookup that appears includes all of the specification sections that have been entered into RMS 3 for the contract. In the paragraph field, you'll enter the paragraph number of the specs where the QC test requirement is described. The location field has a button to the right of it. You can either type the location in the space provided or make a selection from the location lookup. The Performed By field will be filled with the person or company responsible for performing the QC test. Clicking on the blue lookup box in the field required for activity will display the activity lookup list. All the activities in your schedule will be displayed. Select the activity for which this QC test is required. This is a very important piece of information. Properly identifying the activity will enable RMS 3 to assist you in ensuring activity execution is complete and all contract requirements have been fulfilled. The government places heavy reliance on the accuracy of this information when reviewing requests for payment. RMS will automatically fill in the start date from your activity schedule. In the lag lead days field, enter the number of days before, which will have a negative number, or after, which will be a positive number, the activity start date in which this QC test will be performed. RMS will automatically calculate the requirement needed date using the activity start date and the lag lead days entered. Enter a description of the QC test requirement and then click the Back button. We selected QC test as the working example. Had we selected to add a user school, installed property, or transfer property, it would have worked the same way. We're moving on to the Contracts Equipment Checks section. All equipment requiring a mechanic's inspection will be identified in this area. If you are experiencing delays resulting in claims against the government, you'll be glad you've entered the equipment and their associated information into this section of RMS. The only equipment you will not enter into this section is dredging equipment, as dredging equipment has its own module, which we'll go over soon. Let's go back to the Contract menu and click the Equipment Checks tile. And we'll click on Add to create a new equipment check. Enter the equipment serial number or vehicle identification number and a brief description of the equipment. A serial number is a unique number and RMS will not allow for it to be entered twice. There is a 75-character limit on serial numbers. After you've entered the new equipment check information, click OK. Equipment is automatically sequentially numbered by RMS in the Equipment ID field. Enter the equipment's unique identification number in the serial number field. This number distinguishes it from similar equipment. This number could be the VIN number or a company-assigned identification number. Make and model. Enter the equipment's make and model. Enter a brief description of the equipment in the description field. There is a 75-character limit here. Select the date in which the equipment was first inspected for this contract. Enter the date on which the equipment was last inspected for this contract. Enter the date on which the equipment was last present at the worksite, meaning the date it was removed from the worksite. Then, check the box if the equipment is safe to use for its intended purpose. Do not falsely check this box if there is any defect that could be considered a safety concern. For the Authorized Hours field, you'll enter the number of hours which the equipment can be safely used before it must be inspected again. In the field called Hours Run Since Last Inspection, you don't need to add anything. RMS will maintain a running total here based on the hours logged on the QC daily report since the last reported inspection date. Remaining hours authorized. This field also will populate for you as the number is the difference between authorized hours and hours run since last inspection. Click on the Back button when done. Use this module to enter information on equipment used to perform dredging. A dredge is any device, machine, or vessel that is used to excavate and remove material from the bottom of a body of water. Scows, barges, and other vessels that are not used to excavate and remove material from the bottom of a body of water are referred to as attendant plants. Do not enter attendant plants into this module. Section 7.3.14 attendant plant information is entered on the daily dredging reports. If your contract includes dredging, but you receive the following message when trying to access the dredging equipment module, ask your USACE representative to modify the contract setup to include dredging. If dredging is set up, go ahead and click the Dredging Equipment tile. And we'll select to add a bucket pipeline dredge for this example. Click OK to confirm this is the type of dredge to be added. You'll enter all information requested on this screen, and click the Back button when done. You may have noticed there are 3 dredge types that can be added: a bucket pipeline dredge, a hopper dredge, and a sidecaster dredge. Go ahead and add whichever dredge or dredges your project will be using, just like we did with the bucket pipeline dredge. Remember to click the Back button once you're done adding all the required information. Moving on to exposure hours. The exposure hours are the number of paid duty hours of all prime and subcontractor employees' time while on the project site. Unpaid hours count as exposure when employees are housed on site. The contractor is required to submit a monthly report of your exposure hours, starting from notice to proceed until the actual completion date. This requirement should be included in your contract safety specification. Let's take a look at what is involved in exposure hours now. From the Contract menu, make sure the QC tab is selected, and then select the Exposure Hours tile. To enter and complete a report, select the month and click on Edit. The exposure hour input table lists the prime and all subcontractors that have been added to the contract. You have the option of manually inputting the exposure hours for each contractor on the list or copying the hours that were logged on the daily reports. Select Copy to transfer all the labor hours for the selected month to the exposure hours table. Note that RMS3 will not perform the copy when there are incomplete QC daily reports. Return to the identified reports and complete the reports before continuing. Copied hours can still be manually edited. Type in the name of the person submitting the report, then check Completed, Ready to send to the government. This action will add a document package with the exposure report already attached. Before sending the package to the government to process, select Edit to complete the document by signing the exposure report. Then submit for review, and we're done with the exposure hours. We're almost done with the...
Hi there, I'm Alex from Titan University, the leader in government construction, safety, quality control, and environmental training. We hope you enjoyed the Module 7 preview of the course Mastering RMS. Please like, share, and comment if you did. We'd really appreciate it. If you want to learn more, or get your Mastering RMS certificate, head on over to Titan University by clicking the link below. Our courses are affordable and easy to comprehend. Plus, we also have course materials you can download to assist you. The Mastering RMS course has several modules. But no worries if you can't finish it all in one sitting. You can take as long as you like to complete it. If you are, or want to be, a quality control manager for construction, this Mastering RMS course just might be for you. Please don't forget to like and share. We hope to see you over on Titan University.